The winds guide you.
Hey guys, Classic Wins here. The Classic Beta is over, but I knew I had to do one more test before it ended. The most important test of the entire beta. Which class levels up to 2 in the least amount of time? So in order to find the answer, I leveled up 136 characters to level 2. I did 3 of each and every class and race combination in the game, in addition to the 5 of each warrior race I had done in a previous video. Then I combined the averages and I made a top 9 style list. So now let's look at the top 9 and explain the reasons as to why they got that rank. The slowest class to level 2 was the Warlock, with an average time of 2 minutes and 13 seconds. The quickest time overall was a Gnome with a 1 minute 44 shown in Monk Green, and the slowest was an Undead with a 2 minute 47 shown in Death Knight Red. Warlocks at level 1 are terrible. It's obvious the class is designed to rely on a pet very early. For example, the majority of their DPS at this level comes from Shadowbolt, but Shadowbolt has the longest cast time of any spell at level 1 with a cast time of 1.7 seconds, 0.2 seconds longer than all the other spells. What's the reason? Because screw Warlocks, I guess. Shadowbolt also does less damage and has a higher mana cost when compared to a similar ability like Smite. Oftentimes, especially as Horde, you would expend your entire mana pool on one creature, and sometimes that creature wouldn't even die. That's because both Orcs and Undead only have enough mana to cast 4 spells before they're totally out. Also, you only start with 2 water, and you're gonna run out of those very fast. So then when you run out, you pull out that terrible dagger, and you hit the mobs for like 1 or 2 damage, meaning it's about 6 or 7 swings to do the damage of 1 Shadowbolt. Oh, and by the way, the dagger also has the lowest damage of any starting weapon. So a combination of both the least efficient spell and the least efficient weapon made Warlocks the most painful class to level to 2. Our next slowest class was the Druid, with an average time of 1 minute 56 seconds. The quickest time was a 1:47 and the slowest was 2:08. Druids suffered from a similar issue to Warlocks in that their spell does low damage. Wrath actually did the lowest damage of any spell in the game at level 1, but it had a slightly quicker cast time and more mana efficiency than Shadowbolt. And again similar was that Night Elves could only cast 5 times before they go out of mana, and because it had slightly lower damage, it could sometimes take all 5 casts to kill just one creature. And even worse was that Tauren could only cast just 3 times before going out of mana, but what kept Druids from being last was that their staff actually hits pretty hard, so there wasn't really a need to wait for mana. Then at number 7 we actually had a tie, so 6th place will be shared among Shamans and Mages, with an average time of 1 minute 53 for both of them. You may have noticed a pattern by now, and that's that all the casters suck. So why is that? 2 main reasons were downtime because of waiting for mana, and whenever a spell is resisted, you just spent 20 to 30% of your mana to do nothing. Resist killed the times for all the casters, and in some cases multiple resists on the same mob would mean very long leveling times. Overall, Fireball and Lightning Bolt were decent spells though. Both offered good damage, and Lightning Bolt is literally just a better Wrath in every way. Fireball offered the longest level 1 range in the game with high damage, but a little mana efficient for its damage. Then they could follow up with melee as their weapons weren't as terrible as the dagger that Warlocks got. Then came Priests, with a time of 1 minute 50 seconds. Priests were carried by the Alliance races when we look at the times. Humans did amazing in particular because of the mace skill, letting them hit for a little more damage. Smite is the main source of damage for the Priest, which is a pretty effective spell overall. With the same mana and cast time as Wrath, but a higher damage than Shadowbolt, it was just a better version of those 2 spells. And also, I had never actually looked at all these level 1 spells before I made this video, and I thought it's pretty cool that Blizzard made a slight difference in each of them. I had always assumed that they were basically the same when I played the game in the past. With how much obsession there is about balance these days in the modern game, it's interesting to see how imbalanced the level 1 abilities were when they basically were the same thing with different spell animations. But anyways, back to Priests. Priests were all able to cast at least 5 times, which was always enough to kill a creature, and then they had the mace to follow up for a little bit when needed. The 2 drinks were enough because of the more mana efficient smites that they had, which meant that they were just barely able to edge ahead of the rest of the caster classes. Next we have the Warriors with an average of 1 minute 41 seconds. It was a little bit surprising that the overall worst class to level was not the worst class at level 1. Warriors' biggest strength was that they had no downtime, and their abilities actually benefited them the more stuff that they fought. Other classes never benefited for pulling more than 1 creature at a time, but a Warrior could be played to pool rage and deal large amounts of damage in the next group. It was a very fun class to level from 1 to 2. All of the races of Warriors had their unique bonuses, which made it feel more different than just playing 5 priests spamming Smite. I went into a lot of details about Warriors in a previous video, so if you wanted to see some more of that, check that one out. So on to number 3, the Hunter, with a time of 1 minute 40 seconds. Night Elf Hunters managed to score 117 2 times, and Tauren managed to score 202 twice for the best and worst times. The Hunter's main weakness at level 1 is that they have no ranged spells or abilities, just auto shot. They can use Raptor Strike to finish off a mob when it gets close, but their mana isn't really possible to spend in a way to maximize DPS. What really made Hunters pull ahead of the pack was just having no downtime, and also having pretty good damage because of the bow being combined with the ammo. It meant that they had the highest DPS white attacks of anyone by a large margin. But having no damage dump meant that they really rely on every hit connecting, because missing with a ranged attack could mean that long melee durations would happen because the enemy will get into your range and you can't shoot the bow. And now, number 2, Paladin, with a time of 1 minute 36 seconds. Paladins were boring, and let's be real, they only took second place because they don't have any horde races to slow them down. Paladins just had no downtime, and they kind of felt like bad warriors when you played them. You just auto-attack and kept Seal of Righteousness up. But yeah, I guess if Paladins wanted to get their chance to be competitive in sustained DPS, level 1 is their only real chance. And then finally, first place, the Rogues, with an average time of 1 minute 35 seconds. Rogues felt the fastest and the most fun to play at level 1. They had throwing weapons, they have their auto attack, they have 2 offensive abilities, that's more than all the other classes have. The throwing weapon let them pull mobs from a distance, and it gave them a slight edge to close the gap and get damage off while regenerating energy from the previous fight. Rogues always finished the mobs off very quickly due to having that pool of energy. They could just spam out on every encounter. Even though they started with an awful dagger, just having a sustainable resource dump meant that they could take first place. So there we have it, the top 9 classes to hit level 2. But since I spent over 10 hours leveling characters to 2 in order to make this video, I can't just let it end there. I wanted to look at a few more things. For example, the races. Here's an average time of the races, and as you can see, the Horde ones sucked, and the Undead really sucked a lot. The Undead had the worst times on average and the worst times overall. There were some really weird things going on, like sometimes you'd cast a spell on a wolf, and suddenly it decided to chase a rat 30 yards away and then evade bug after it's already tagged. Those wolves were just running off and doing stuff. The mobs were way too spread out. Like, the Undeads had so many more resists, I thought for sure these mobs had a hidden resist value or something, so I ran my Hunter over there to check with Beast Lore, but no resist. It was just really bad luck. The best overall time of any class was taken by a Dwarf Warrior with a time of 1 minute 16 seconds, which was very close to the 117 achieved by both Rogues and Hunters. And the worst overall time was the Undead Warlock with a 2 minute 47 seconds, which is more than twice as long as the best time done by that Dwarf Warrior. I think I fully tested the level 1 experience on the beta, so you can all thank me later for its perfection. And that's gonna do it for this video on which classes level to 2 the fastest. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. My name is Classic Wins. Have a wonderful day.